This initial meeting of the awards for the PA Smart Pathway Innovations Registered Apprenticeship Grant Initiative. Before we begin, I do want to make you aware, as I said, that the recording of this meeting will be for reference purposes only. And by participating in this session, you're consenting to the recording, retention, and use of the session. Pennsylvania is a two-party consent state. And as required by law and adherence to the Commonwealth policies, we do not consent to any recording or transcriptions of this meeting, including artificial intelligence recordings, notes, and including any third-party applications. All right, the purpose of this meeting is to provide you with an overview of attachments in the fully executed grant agreement email and provide you guidance on your next steps for this grant initiative. My name is Jennifer Grooms, and I'm a Grants, Statistical Development, and Special Projects Specialist with the Apprenticeship and Training Office. And I'm assigned to this grant to support you in any way I can and to provide technical assistance. Joining me is a very supportive team who from time to time may have some interactions with you regarding certain areas of your grant. We have Christy DeWitt is the supervisors for Apprenticeship and Training Representatives. I see Danielle DeMarovic here with the Pre-Apprenticeship Division Supervisor. I'm uncertain if Director Lowe joined us or not. She may very well be on here. We have fiscal technicians, Sharon Hawkins, Christine Barrett, Megan Garland, and of course from Workforce Development and those that received emails with their fully executed items came from Christina Ramos and Denise Scarborough. They've joined us as well as many of our ATRs that you will get introduced to later here in the presentation. Great, so each of you should have received an email detailing the fully executed grant agreement and NOO. This email includes the attachments listed here. First, we will review the request for the attestation and submission of your audited financial statement, an IRS Form 990, within 14 days of the email that you received. If your organization is not required to submit a 990, please send a letter stating this information. Return the signed attestation and audited financial statement to the resource account at ra-li-bwda-gs@pa.gov, and I have that noted at the bottom of the screen. The next document is the fully executed signed grant agreement. The Pathway Innovations to Registered Apprenticeships Grant period is November 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026. This aligns with the NOO that you received, which is the Notice of Obligation, and it is dated in that same time frame. Additionally, you received Terms and Conditions, Quarterly Narrative Report Template, Quarterly Performance Report Template, CWDS Intake, Grant Financial Reporting Package, and Closeout Package to round out just a few of the items we're going to look at today. There were several other items in the email which were guides to support you or quick references to set up accounts or look for invoicing or billing questions. So the key items to note is to adhere to the requirements outlined in the fully executed grant agreement. Now that you have the Notice of Obligation, spending and invoicing for reimbursement may begin within the dates listed on the NOO. And this is the permission to spend funds as they align with your budget for reimbursement. Invoicing must occur monthly. We do not want to see grantees falling behind. Understandably, you are just getting your NOO and you may have November and December expenses. We do understand that. But outside of that, we want you to invoice monthly. Even if you do not have expenses, you need to please submit a zero balance invoice. And the fiscal team will review additional invoicing details later in this presentation. And of course, we ask that you maintain contact with the Apprenticeship and Training Office. Please ask questions. Communication is key and a must. Okay, just a little bit of information specific to registered apprenticeship as this grant initiative is aligned with. Registered apprenticeships have 5 key components that differentiate the approach from other types of workplace training programs. And the components include a paid job, on-the-job training, related technical instruction, mentorship, and credentials. And this combination of components is what makes registered apprenticeships a viable option for giving career development opportunity to individuals who may not have been able to engage in it prior through more traditional methods. Apprenticeship programs funded by this grant must be registered with the Commonwealth, and awardees will have until 1 year from the contract start date to finalize their registration or show progress towards the finalization of the registration. The ATO will define making progress towards registration on a case-by-case basis. Grantees are expected to initiate contact with and continue to meet with the representatives of the ATO. And as the state apprenticeship agency, we are an SAA, we look to establish, develop, or expand the apprenticeship associated with this grant. And grantees who do not make adequate progress towards their registration may have funds deobligated. If a grantee intends to expand a registered apprenticeship, the grantee is required to ensure registered apprenticeship sponsors remain compliant with all U.S. and PA laws, policies, regulations, and standards of registered apprenticeship, as well as their own outlined and approved program standards. The first step is to attend a registered apprenticeship program orientation if you haven't. And I will provide the link in the chat at the end of our presentation today for you to sign up for the next orientation. All right, so it's important to note the Apprenticeship and Training Office's Field Staff Division, and the Field Division will assist awardees to understand the process to register a new apprenticeship program or expand an existing apprenticeship. They will be valuable in understanding the guidelines and regulations. They are led by Christy DeWitt as the supervisor, and they consist of area apprenticeship and training representatives, as we refer to them as ATRs, in addition to special project ATRs. And this division will be vital in your grant award. If your organization has not reached out to the field staff, please make a note in the meeting chat, and at the conclusion of this meeting, I will assist you in finding your ATR. Guides and resources that are available for employers, training providers, and sponsors at the PA CareerLink Registered Apprenticeship website. PA regulations, standard practices, starting a registered apprenticeship, and pre-apprenticeship guides can be found online. And again, the link will be shared at the end of this presentation in the chat. The next few slides will review the terms and conditions that was attached to your fully executed email. Your terms and conditions are the guide to ensure you meet the expectations of the grant outcomes and support the prompt payment for invoices. As awardees of a grant, you're required to provide quarterly reports detailing project progress and performance. Your terms and conditions will outline a reporting timeline. The chart that you see here was pulled directly from the terms and conditions. So note that the first quarter was November 1 to December 31st of 2024. If you did not have anything to report, you will be able to email me and let me know that, since obviously you're just getting your NOO in the last week. All grantees moving forward will complete the quarterly narrative report, or Q&R, used for capturing performance information. And I'm going to share what that template looks like at this time. All right. So as you'll see, the information is fairly self-explanatory. We're looking for general information such as quarterly grant activities, employers or business engagement, work with education and training partners, progress towards outcomes and goals, any challenges or barriers that you have faced, as well as strategies to overcome those challenges and barriers. And we are looking for any best practices that you might want to share with us too. So it is a 4-page document for you to give us an idea of where things have gone and how we can support you. We do ask that when you are submitting the quarterly narrative report and the quarterly performance report, which I will detail in a moment, that you use a naming standard that was also noted in your terms and conditions. So we asked that the subject line for the email be the grant initiative name, so we could here call it Pathway Innovations. The period of reporting, the month and the year, October to December 2024, your business name, company name, and then your contract number. And then we give an example of how you would then name the document that you're going to attach. So for example, you would save it as QNR Pathway October to December 2024 with your XYZ company name and your contract number. So next we're going to take a look at the quarterly performance report and how we will capture apprentice info and their demographics. All right, you'll first notice there are 6 tabs along the bottom of the workbook. The first tab is very basic. It's your grantee data. So you'll have your name and your contract number in there. The next tab focuses on apprentice information. You will note here, we do not want apprentices by name. We want your registered program name in column A. So whatever that program name is, you will list that name. And then within the given quarter, you will track what monthly activities have occurred. So we're looking for new apprentices enrolled per registered program, then the number of new apprentices from an underrepresented population, then active apprentices. So once they are new, they're also active in that same month. And again, these are apprentices that will be supported with grant funds through RTI, OJL, and support services. And as the program progresses, we'll be looking for completions per program. And the completions also break down whether the individual is from an underrepresented or underserved population. And we're also looking for average completion wage per program. When an apprentice is enrolled new, they should then have their demographics captured in the apprentice demographics new tab. So you can see we have, again, by quarter, each month in which they would become enrolled and active in the program. And then once they complete, we have an apprentice demographics for completers to be filled out. Now, on the program information tab, depending on what your grant listed as, whether you're building a new registered apprenticeship or you're expanding an existing one, will be dependent on which items you select to complete in column A. So as you can see, if you are going to be developing a new registered apprenticeship program, you will complete 1 or 2A and, 1 or 2 and 2A. And based on if you are developing an individual or group model apprenticeship, we'll decide whether you're completing, again, 1 or 2 and 2A. And then as far as expanding in column A, if that is your goal for your program, 3 or 4 and 4A are the items that you will be looking at detailing on this tab. And then the last tab is just some information for a quick look at what we're reaching or you're reaching as far as apprentices enrolled. So this will auto-populate based on the information that you've placed in the apprentice information tab. So you don't necessarily need to worry about doing anything on this tab other than taking a look at what percentages may appear. Again, there are in the headings of the tabs, each tab, and in the given category, you'll find a tooltip. So I highlight the tooltips so that you can take a look at what we're looking for and how you should be documenting a new apprentice in the program. When they are new, they were also active, and then each month they remain active, or maybe someone has to cancel the program, so then your active number would be lower in that given month. Again, reference the tooltips for information on that. And I'm also here to help you as you begin to fill out your QPR each month. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. We don't expect you to know this instantly off the bat. And again, if there is something that you're questioning or uncertain of, feel free to reach out to the ATO grants@pa.gov. Right, so moving forward with additional terms and conditions, success stories. Grantees may be requested to submit success stories in a format provided by the ATO pertaining to their funded programs on a quarterly basis. Grantees are required to ensure the sponsor of a registered apprenticeship program, whether they are grant funded or not, will enter required data for participants in what we call RAPIDs. CWDS intake, as noted in the terms and condition, grantees are required to ensure the sponsors of the registered apprenticeship programs enter participants supported under this grant in the Commonwealth Workforce Development System. And we will look specifically at the intake process a little later in this presentation. You also received information on how to follow, set up an account, as well as follow through and entering apprentices in your fully executed email. And grantees will be participating in regularly scheduled Teams meeting. And as your grant manager, I will set up a monthly meeting beginning in February through Teams. Additional terms and conditions. Grantees may be selected to participate in a state grant performance review. Grantees must submit budget modifications, narrative updates, and grant extensions as requested and as necessary. Grantees will participate in any required trainings, in events, and should coordinate visits with the ATO upon request. And grantees must also follow the closeout submission process, which we will cover later during this meeting. So over the next few slides, we're going to take a look at the CWDS intake. Again, this information is directly in the email with a in CWDS intake PDF form. The Commonwealth Workforce Development System, as we refer to as CWDS, is the Pennsylvania system of record for all workforce investments, including those made in support of apprenticeship. Information on all apprentices that receive state funding are required to be entered into CWDS. The OTO will provide the apprenticeship program sponsors point of contact with a temporary access code to sign into CWDS. The program sponsors, POC, will then be able to create their account. First-time users will need to navigate to the CWDS homepage and click register. So on your right-hand side, you'll see an image that's directly from our intake book to support you. Under the forgot Keystone ID or password, you'll see the register button. Within the user enrollment screen, you will select the provider of services and select registered apprenticeship sponsor and click continue. The next screen will show the provider business folder list. Locate your business folder via the search result. Select your assigned business folder and click join. So for this example, it's the German American Chamber of Commerce for Philadelphia. That has been identified. The next screen is provider contact list. Locate your name from the contact list and click associate contact. The access code screen appears, and at this point, you'll need to reach out to the ATO at apprenticeship@pa.gov to receive your CWDS temporary access code. If you need to update the RAPIDS contact information, please indicate this in the email. And the subject line for the email when sending it to the apprenticeship@pa.gov should be access code and RAPIDS new contact. Once the temporary access code has been received, navigate to the CWDS site and log in. You should receive a message that your profile already exists and you will be prompted to enter the temporary access code. After selecting Continue, the Edit Provider Contact Details screen will appear. Review the information entered by the ATO staff, update any incorrect or missing information, and select Save and Continue. Login details will appear, and you'll create and enter a password and 3 hint questions and save the information. Once saved, the registration confirmation screen appears. Record the Keystone ID that appears on the screen. This will be the ID that you will enter to log into the system, and you will click Return to Home Page. Submit to submit the intake of apprentices, you'll require the sponsor employer to use their Keystone ID and password to log into CWDS again. So you'll see we're pointing out here, View Provider PA Career Link Dashboard. And this will take you to the point of the PA Career Link Dashboard link, where you can then start intake for a new apprentice. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to continue to click through what is available in the guide to support you in placing apprentices in there. If and when you get to the point of needing to enroll apprentices and you've got questions, feel free to reach out to the ATO at ATO Grants or the apprenticeship at pa.gov, and we will definitely set up a meeting and try to step through some of the questions that you have and support you in getting to that. All right, the next part is how do you get reimbursed for the expenses that that you're incurring? I'm going to kick off a little bit of information with this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Sharon Hawkins. All right, grantees must submit invoices through, again, the PA Career Link CWDS. This is through the financial management system. It's due monthly by the 5th. We're using the GFRP in order to develop your FRS and submit that. If you are working through the GFRP and you stumble upon some questions, please reach out to the resource account, which is listed here on the screen at ra-li-bwda-nonlocal@pa.gov. Now, some of the information that we go over is not going to be relevant to those of you that have logged in that are part of a local workforce board. How you draw down your funds is a little different than those that are non-local. So please bear with us while we go through a little bit of information on this, on how to use the system from the non-local side. And at that point, I'm going to mute and I will turn over the presentation to Sharon. Would you like me to stop sharing my screen, Sharon, for you to take over?
Yes. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you, Sharon.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharon Hawkins, and I am a Fiscal Management Specialist 1 with the Bureau of Workforce Development and Administration. And I will be reviewing how to submit your invoices that are required to be uploaded to CWDS PA Career Link by the 5th of every month. As Jennifer said, this will not apply to a local board. There will be no changes in the manner in which you submit invoices and draw down your funds. I am showing an Excel spreadsheet. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So within your workbook, there are several additional Excel spreads tabs in the bottom. This is the workbook that was submitted with your application with your budget and your budget justification and your budget expense details. The additional tabs we have here is It's going to be the documentation that's needed, your invoice details, FSR details, and draw details. And I will go through each of these tabs. So starting with your budget and expense details, this is where you will record all of your monthly expenses. And as a reminder, all expenses that you are invoicing for must have supporting documentation. Once you've entered all of your monthly expenses, your invoice details is going to be a breakout of those monthly expenses. So it should align with what you are invoicing on your budget and expense details. And as you go through your items, it'll give you your total for your budget. The top part is going to be your organization's contact information. Your contract number will already be pre-filled. You will complete the invoice date. This is the date that you are actually completing the document. And the billing period is going to be the month that you are invoicing for. Once you have all of that information completed, when you go over to your FSR tab, you will put your month reported for and your year reported for. It is very important that you do not put the month and the year together. You need to separate them. If you do not separate them, the Excel workbook will not generate the proper information. And just to give an example, if you take the November here and you want to put a space in there, this is what happens. So it's very important that you keep it just separate so that all of your information can pull over. Once you've done that, the information is going to generate on what your monthly expenses are, as well as your cumulative expenses. It will also populate the data on your FSR details as well as your draw details. Once you've had all of this information completed, you are now ready to upload all of your information into CWDS PA Career Link, and which Jennifer should have sent the instructions on, one, how to establish a login ID, as well as the instructions on completing the invoice in CWDS. Finally, the documentation needed tab is going to give you examples of what is needed for your expenses. So if you are invoicing for salaries, all salaries must have a timesheet for people that you are invoicing for that shows the total amount of hours worked for the month, as well as identify the number of hours that were worked on this particular grant. In addition to a payroll summary or payroll register, or a pay stub, whatever is easiest. But remember that if you are supplying pay stubs, we do not want more than one personally identifiable information. So things like the last four of the social address and stuff like that needs to be redacted. In addition to any other invoices you may have, if you're ordering supplies, any purchases that you are invoicing for, you must supply supporting documentation. And I think I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jen.
Very good. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, we should be hopefully seeing grant change request on your screen. If you're not, someone let me know. Okay, sounds good. Any changes to the budget, project narrative, timeline, or goals and outcomes requires a request for modification cover letter. On your right-hand side, you will see a template for that letter. To receive that, please reach out to the ATO resource account for grants at atogrants@pa.gov. Use the subject line grant initiative name, so Pathway Innovations, purpose of the email, and the contract number. So the example would be Pathway Innovations, budget modification, and then your grant number. Send the completed request modification cover letter to the ATO's resource email account for grants, again, atogrants@pa.gov. And then details on the process for budget, project narrative, timeline, or goals and outcomes modifications will be further detailed to the grantee once the request is received. Right, that brings us to one of the final items we'll review from your fully executed email, and that is the closeout package. The attachment provides information on what is included in a complete package to finalize your grant. Again, this is down the road, and we understand this information. We will review it again as you get closer to this, but it was worth noting that it's part of your fully executed email, and that all grantees will need to complete this process within 60 days of the grant end date, or after all funds have been fully expended, whichever occurs first. And what you need to include in the final closeout package is the final financial status report, which Sharon just detailed, the final status of funds, grant recipients release, grant recipients assignment of refunds, rebates, and credits, and then the closeout tax certification. There's a disposition plan form, and you'll do all of this through the PA CareerLink CWDS site that we've been referencing. All right, so these are some final reminders with your grant agreement and NOO attachments, is that the FSR, invoice, and documentation are due on the 5th of each month through CWDS. That also includes noting zero balance invoices. And quarterly reports, the dates are listed there. We give you 30 days past the end of the quarter in order to submit those reports. Please use the naming standard found in your terms and conditions when you email the ATO grants@pa.gov resource account. And also save the QNR and QPR based on the naming standards in the terms and conditions. All right, this brings us to the opportunity to ask questions. I know we've detailed a lot of information. We are here to help you. If once we're done with the meeting, you come up with another question or two that pops in, feel free to email us. But at this point, I will take a look if there's any questions in the chat to try and support answers to, and feel free again to come off mute. At this point, I am also going to stop the recording.